Welcome to The Way, the Truth and the Life. My name is Sandra and I pray that the testimony you are about to hear strengthens your faith and draws you closer to Jesus.
Thanks for joining me, Steve. It's such a pleasure to have you with me today.
Oh, good, Sandra.
So we'll start off a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, things like that.
Sure. So grew up here in Sydney. So been born and bred in Sydney, probably not too far down the road from where we are here in Castle Hill. Yeah. But so I've always been a hills sort of guy. Today I'm 47, have an awesome wife. Her name is Esther, and a couple of kids, twin 7-year-olds, Jonathan and Abby. And that's how life looks like for us today. But I guess which is very, very different to how I grew up, again in Sydney here, but grew up as a guy that, was outside of church and really didn't have a great understanding about church and Jesus and God. But life changed, and actually that's how I met Esther, through the local church and stuff, which is really cool too.
Cool. So do you want to tell us a little bit about sort of how you came to find God? How
Sure.
old were you? How did that sort of come about?
Yeah, it was pretty random, I was, as a young 20-year-old, I spent a lot of time in Noosa at Christmas time with some mates and family friends and parents of my mates, and found myself in a motel room as the last night before I drove home to Sydney by myself, and just opened up the drawer next to the bed, and there was a Gideon's Bible, and I literally just started in the beginning, and opened up, and it was Genesis, and really didn't know what I was reading, but I just, for whatever reason, decided to start reading. So if I read 1 or 2 pages, that would have been probably the extent of it. But that was in December of 96. Mm-hmm. So, came home and just went back to normality of being at the time, 23-year-old, working, single guy, living at home with mum and dad, to becoming a Christian, giving my life to Christ in August of 97. So about a 7-month journey from reading the Bible that first time in the motel room in Noosa, coming home to Sydney, and 7 months later, a series of events that led me to a work colleague and business colleague, husband and wife, asking me to come to church one night, and I came to church and heard the message and responded to the call to give your life to Christ.
So good. Can you tell us a little bit about that 6-month journey? What kind of got you to the point where you said, yep, okay, I will come to church, I will check it out?
Sure. Well, quite funny, really. We're connected in business, and I found out later on the business event that we went to, which was like what we call a weekend seminar. Mm-hmm. On the Sunday, there is a non-denominational service, because people would come in from different places around maybe the state or around the country and come in, and that was a very key part of the business environment we're involved in. And unbeknownst to me, my sister liked this guy, and apparently this guy had said that he was going to this service on the Sunday, so my sister said, hey, how about we go along? Yeah. So this would have been probably maybe the April or so. Yeah. So not much really happened in that 7-month period, apart from going back to reading the Bible, going to the weekend seminar, the Sunday service, and I recall that I was sitting right up the back row with my sister, and they had a call to Christ. A call to action, if you like. Yeah. And I felt my heart was going a million miles an hour, but I'm like, what on earth is that? I had never experienced that before and didn't know what that was. So I'm like, well, I'm not putting my hand up. I'm just going to hey, this is a bit weird. So we left, at the end. And then again, a few months later, one of my colleagues, he invited me to church with his wife, and I went along, and that's history from there. So I remember when the call came to receive Christ that night, I was again sitting up in the back row, the very back row of the auditorium, and I cannot tell you that I put my hand up, but my hand was up. I'm like, how did my hand get up that night? Because I don't recall doing it consciously. I think it was just a total God moment, and before I knew it, I was down the front, and the rest really is, how many years later now? That was in 97, so 25 years almost,
Wow.
23, 24, 25 years later, here we are having a conversation about how it all began.
So good.
Half
And
a lifetime.
how long after that did you meet Esther? And
Yeah, so in 97, we met in around 2000, so it would have been in youth group.
Yeah,
So,
right.
or actually youth group and Bible study, and she came to our Bible study Connect group, and I was the Connect group leader, and I knocked on the door, and she came in, and that was our first introduction, and but it was definitely through youth group that we're involved with.
So good. Can you tell us a bit about the chaplaincy work that you do and how you found yourself in that environment?
Yeah, sure. So I guess when I gave my life to Christ, I was, like I said, I was working, but have a family history of motorcycle racing. So I was racing bikes at the time, and in my immaturity in Christ, I thought that I couldn't do both.
Yeah.
So I just said, okay, God, well, if I'm going to follow you, I'll give up the bike thing. But even though it was my thing,
Yeah.
but I was like, okay, well, I'll give it up. And as I journeyed through life and became more mature in Christ, in around 2012, so how long ago? 15 years after giving my life to Christ, I was like, surely there's a way that maybe ministry and motorsport could connect, and I could give back into that arena that I was, passionate about. So, I put it to our Connect group. We were running a Connect group as husband and wife then, and I just said, hey, this is what I'm planning to do. I've seen this ministry. It's around motorsport, chaplaincy. Maybe I'll do some study and look toward a 2-year plan to maybe give back and become a chaplain. And 2 weeks to that day, I was appointed the chaplain at what we know now as Sydney Motorsport Park.
Wow.
Didn't know in the room that night, one of our Connect group members was connected in sport to chaplaincy, and made a phone call to somebody because they'd just put out a call that week that they needed somebody at Sydney Motorsport Park as a motorsport chaplain. So that was just a clear call that was God, that my 2-year plan was God's 2-week plan, and
That's so amazing that God can take your passion and use it in His ministry to help others.
And it's very, very different. So being on the track to being off circuit, but He gave me a foot in the door straight away because I knew the track and I could talk the language of motorsport because I've been around it.
And relate. So what would you say to people that maybe are still sort of seeking God and seeking God's call for their life? Or would you what advice would you give them?
I think initially just keep reading, right? So keeping communion is key, because God uses people, and He uses obviously His word, and He'll use any means necessary to communicate with us as individuals. He dwells within us, so I think it's keeping close to Him and what He's doing. I think that's probably the key. That's the key for me anyway, and it sort of just outworks from there. And I think talking to some key people around you, keep your circle pretty close on who you might share your God dreams and desires with.
Yeah.
But Psalm 37:4, right? He delight yourself in the Lord, and He'll give you the desires of your heart. So just keeping that fresh, right, and keeping it real, and allowing God's time to do its work in you, because He's never early, never late. He's right on time. He knows everything, and He's got a time and place for everything. So So just chill out, relax in him, and know that he's got you covered, and he loves you, and he loves me, he loves us all as individuals, and he's got a purpose and plan for us all. So just
good.
walk in that, and
So good. His perfect timing. Thank you so much. I know how busy you are, so thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Oh, good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you could join us today. If you'd like to share your testimony or what God is doing in your life, please email waytruthliveproject@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.